So my topic today is IDS, how to avoid and manage post-surgical recurrence. So patients with, I think, intermittent exotropia are most challenging because you do a surgery and they tend to exodrift over a period of time. So the reported incidence of post-operative exodrift within 2 to 4 years after primary surgery is up to 42% and 50% respectively. So this is responsible for the post-operative drift is responsible for the high recurrence and low success rate after surgery. So we need to, as clinicians, predict the time of onset and the rate of progression of exodrift after surgery. So we did a paper, we published a paper in 2017 where we wanted to assess the factors affecting residual exotropia after 2 muscle surgery for intermittent exotropia. And it was done by a single surgeon, and we studied the factors. We compared the factors between patients with residual exotropia of more than 10 prisms and successful outcome within 10 prisms after 4 to 6 post-operative visit. So 27 patients, that is 17.2% patients had residual exotropia at 6 weeks post-operative follow-up. And this was not affected by amblyopia or anisometropia or lateral incompetence, pattern deviation, vertical deviation, the type of exotropia or the type of surgery done. So what we found, the main factors were the age at surgery. The patients with an older age and a large preoperative deviation had greater chances of developing failure of 2 muscle surgery for intermittent exotropia. So there was similarly, again, a paper published in 2021, and they found the same thing, that there was a post-operative drift, exodrift of around 16.6%. So the recurrence is common. So we have to study the factors. So one factor is the large exo deviation. Most of us get patients very late, and they're already into phase 4, that is basic exotropia. So they have mostly come with, most of the time they might come with near deviation more than distance deviation. So we do a post-recess resect, and then we find there is a residual of around, still for near, there is a residual of 16 prisms. So patients with large preoperative deviations more than 40 prisms and who are in phase 4 or constant deviation had a poorer chance of successful outcome after a single intervention. So in many studies which have been done, so most of them have said the single prognostic factor, significant factor, was the angular deviation at the distance the first day after surgery. So even if we get a small residual exotropia at within the first 3 months, we need to observe them for at least 24 months. So I think what Dr. Sujata has presented very well, that we need to go rush in, and even if we get around a 4 or 6 prisms exotropia and we are very happy, like it's come to a good result, less than 10 prisms, we need to observe them and we need to push them towards binocular vision therapy. So small angle deviations of basic exotropia, they give better results because when you slightly overcorrect them during the immediate post-op period, they are found to prevent long-term recurrences. So how much to overcorrect will be like we normally overcorrect, but around 8 to 10 prisms of, we try to make them 8 to 10 prisms of esotropia. So they give you best results. So what they have found out, that one other study published, that what is the long-term survival analysis of bilateral lateral rectus recession. They found that it also varied by the type of surgery and the surgery done. So patients with basic type of exotropia did not do well if treated with bilateral lateral rectus recessions with either as patients with either true divergence excess or simulated divergence excess exotropia. So we need to choose a type of surgery when we see the patients, like in this patient, where we found that the distance was more than near, and it is a true divergence excess type with a V pattern. In this patient, a bilateral lateral rectus recession with upward transposition plus inferior oblique transposition helped, and this is the planning of the surgery. So this helps to prevent recurrences, and so we need to plan the type of surgery also depending on the case. But for a basic exotropia, the basic concern is that we have seen that the results are not very good. So what is more effective, a bilateral lateral rectus recession or a unilateral R&R? So there was a better survival probability in the bilateral recess group and lower recurrence rate. So a meta-analysis study showed that they wanted to study what happened when we did a bilateral lateral rectus recession or a unilateral recess resect. So there was a higher success rate with the bilateral lateral rectus recession and lower recurrence rate when the duration of follow-up is more than 2 years. So how to prevent or better treat patients with IDS? So age. So we should operate them much early. The best results are achieved when we operate them between 4 to 7 years of age due to greater chance of post-operative bifoveal fusion. So we should not delay them because most of the time patients are being referred only late. So we need to educate more and more the general ophthalmologists that they need to refer the children early, and we also need to operate in the phase 2 of intermittent exotropia instead of telling the patients to wait or the parents to wait. And the deviation should be measured when the patient fixates on an outdoor target. And monoocular occlusion can be achieved in patients with exotropia. You can do a monoocular occlusion to decide the amount of surgery. But a prism adaptation test is much better. We can use the Fresnel prisms, and we can determine the maximum angle of strabismus. So we can put the Fresnel prism, make them sit for 1 hour, and we can estimate whether they'll have a fusional potential. And also we want to know how much of the maximum angle of strabismus is there. So the preoperative PAT test, so whether it is better than the monoocular occlusion test. So a paper was published in BMC Ophthalmology, and they found that performing preoperative PAT in patients with basic type of intermittent exotropia to determine largest exotropic angle gave good results. And deviation angle was increased after prism adaptation in 73% of patients, and the changes were great enough to affect the surgical number. So PAT is better than MO in unveiling masked deviation. And they also prefer that 1 hour MO is not very effective, so it is better to do a 1 hour PAT. So, this patient with a 45 exotropia and with an OD suppression and with an absent studio. So the patient has come at the age of 25. So you plan a recess resect, but after 1 month, you get a residual deviation for distance and near. So you have operated well, but the only thing was a PAT was not done. Maybe a PAT would have improved the surgical success rate. So we need to push towards office-based therapy, which was nicely presented by Dr. Sujata. So we need to have them come for orthoptic sessions, office-based therapy. Most of them prefer a home-based therapy, but after 4 months and 10 sessions of OBT along with HBT, the patient did have stereo and a good NRC. So this will prevent your recurrences, and that is what is very important. Not just do a motor stability for the squint surgery and let the patient go. We need to focus on the sensory portion too. So binocular vision therapy and prisms has to be incorporated into your strabismus practice because this is improving the sensory part of your strabismus. We can't just operate the motor part and say that everything is fine. So we need to look at the sensory portion. So surgical strategy on exotropia reoperation was nicely demonstrated by Dr. Edward Buckley's paper. And if you have done a previous recess resect, then you need to go to the other eye for balancing. And if it is a bilateral lateral rectus resections done with normal ductions, then you need to go for a medius rectus resections. So in this patient, we have done the other eye. There's a recess resect of the other eye. Now, sometimes we find that these patients come with multiple surgeries done, already operated twice, and she herself is a doctor, and they found that they're not able to function. So we need to, I think the important thing what I feel is that sometimes we operate and do not improve their sensory, and so they get what we call as a malignant strabismus, or that we have to operate them 3-4 times just to make them perfect. So we need to touch also the obliques, like in this patient, the inferior oblique was not touched, and so there was a left hypertropia and only the recess resect was done. And so we need to go back and we should educate ophthalmologists that we need to touch the obliques and not leave it alone when you're doing a recess resect surgery. So in this patient, I had to go back and do, there was a scarring in both eyes, medial rectus was done, swan incision was done. We re-resected the medial rectus and the left inferior oblique, and also recessed the lateral rectus of the other eye because there was an incomitance. So I prefer to do the surgery in the right side. So other thing which can be done for residual strabismus is a recent transplantation technique. And is my time up? Okay. So so this calculation is done for medial where we can. So this small video for, I think I'll stop here. So transplantation is another technique where you can transplant a small portion of the medial rectus. So you put a non-absorbable suture in the lateral rectus. You have to recess it, and you transplant the medial rectus to the lateral rectus, and by that you will get a good result. So when cases were already operated 2-3 times and you have no other scope to what to do, then this seems to be a very safe option and a very good option. Of course, in exotropia there are still residuals because the medial rectus which we dissect maybe come out to be very small. So small amount of medial rectus only you get for transplantation. And with that I close. Thank you.